We want to see if you validated your thoughts, or maybe you've altered your thoughts based on these incredible comments from these great folks up here. And any way that survey works out is great. It's not like we have a measurement here. We want to see, we've got your thoughts coming in, we want to know what your thoughts are going out. That's very valuable for you, it's very valuable for us. So, just starting the conversation if I can, what I'd like to say is, Chief Light, you made the comment, policing has changed, the police have not. Okay? What that is an acknowledgement and endorsed by the other chiefs that we've got some internal fixing to do. And they're raising their hands saying, yep, we've got some work to do. We got a dog in this fight. Are there other thoughts or comments? I know there are in the room. Again, we have microphones so you can use them. But are there thoughts and comments in the room that you would like to share around that? Yes, ma'am.
I'm pretty familiar with how Phoenix deals with calls for behavioral health recipients. I would really like to know if you have a separate protocol that you use for that, or if it's handled like anything else.
So we're talking about crisis intervention. Is that, yes, okay. Well, again, in the Cleveland Division of Police, our goal is to have all of our officers with crisis intervention training. We currently do a 40-hour training with our Adams board, our mental health board in the city of Cleveland, Cuyahoga County. We have a little over 600 officers trained, frontline officers trained in crisis intervention. We thought it best to train every officer, at least every frontline officer, because the training that those officers get in de-escalation techniques and dealing with people in crisis are invaluable in their day-to-day interactions with everybody, not just people in crisis. So we've committed to training every police officer within the division in at least that base level 40-hour training. And then we will look at and have started to look at specialized training for certain officers who volunteer, who want to be a part of the crisis intervention teams.
We all have an obligation to do the right thing. And that blue line that makes it so hard for good officers to do the right thing has to be taken away. And that's why I keep talking about, and I like what you said earlier about the whole criminal justice system. If the criminal justice system isn't dealt with, no matter what the frontline soldier do, I'm talking about the police officers, nothing changes. We have legislation in place that keep intact bad policing that has to be addressed.
You know, I clearly recall the 5 points that you made, and pretty much agree with them, but I think there's another point that's really important, and I spent a lot of time talking to our legislators in Denver, because Denver is the state capital, and unfortunately I get called there a lot to have certain discussions. And part of what I tell them is that you cannot absolutely legislate good policing. Understand that. You can put processes in place, but I don't think that you can legislate good policing. I think really part of what has to happen, in addition to having those processes in place, mayors and city managers have to make sure they're hiring the right person that has the courage to make the right decisions. Because I will tell you that we've been doing, and I think Oakland is a classic example, been doing collecting data for 20 and 30 years. But trust me, police officers are pretty creative in how they report certain things. So if you don't have an organization that has the determination to do things the right way, which starts at the top from my perspective, a lot of the things that are being legislated, they're not going to be really held to the standard that they need to be held to if you don't have an agency that's willing to really do that and hold everyone accountable. And that's the leadership quality from my perspective.
With everything that is going on in all of your police departments, you are into your communities, you are exposing yourselves to the communities, you're engaging with your communities in a whole bunch of really fulsome ways. That's transparency in my mind. I mean, you are opening your doors and you're saying, please come in. Look at what we do with our ride-alongs, with our walkabouts, with our activities in the different councils and boards and governing bodies that you've created. Transparency in my mind, I would think, would not be an issue, but it continues to be raised as a topic. Any thoughts on that or comments from the audience?
Actually, one thing that came out in ours is about transparency using the media.
Got it.
And we invited Kim Covington here not only to cover this and interview the chiefs afterwards, but also to provide her perspective from the media side on how they can be partners. So Kim, thank you.
Thank you so much, and I've really enjoyed this summit because you all have been so transparent, and there has been no police talk. You're talking to us, you know, just like a neighbor. And I think that's how you get a story told better. When there's no police talk, there's no that jargon that you normally see, and then we don't choose that soundbite because it doesn't sound human. So you'll see the interview from the victim or the witnesses, and then you will not see the police department represented because we're not going to choose that police talk. We're going to want to talk to a human being. The way to improve community relations in my 30 years of being a journalist is to improve the relationship with the media. There has to be trust, and there has to be a partnership. And I'm glad that we had a partnership, a great partnership with the City of Phoenix and the police chief, Yonner, and his communication team. They do such an amazing job. Sergeant Trent.
About the transparency for police and about the relationship with media. One of the other problems that occurs when something happens between the police and a citizen, particularly a death or something like that, there's always more information about the person who has been killed than there is about the police officer. And that in itself contributes to the lack of trust or the lack of believability, because what happens is it make it look like, the way it comes out, and make it look like you're trying to justify what happened to that person, and that could be something that happened years ago. And so we got to deal with that. I mean, let's be honest. That's something that has to be dealt with, because that's what happens. People see that and they go, well, wait a minute, that happened 10 years ago, or that had nothing to do with this particular incident. So there is a problem with transparency and trust as it relates to police and the media and what is ultimately released in the media when there's an incident involving police.
The ability to live stream at any given moment. So you have a police agency that will say, we cannot release this footage because it's part of an ongoing investigation. But then you have someone that could have been standing to the right of them with the exact same footage. And it might even be better because they have an eye-level perspective and they immediately stream it, or they put it on YouTube maybe 5 minutes later, or they go straight to the media. And then we're caught in the middle saying, well, no, we can't release the footage that we have because it's part of an investigation. Well, such and such already released it. How do you know it's not the same thing? And these are things that we have to tackle as they occur, because there is no shared or set guideline on what to do with that, because everything is changing so quickly.
You know, when Chief White made that comment earlier in the session, it kind of came to mind. You know, we do these things all over the country, and we talk to different police chiefs and different officers and different agencies, and I think you're right. We haven't changed, but I think we're at the point now where a lot of our chiefs, a lot of our officers realize that we have to change, and we're ready for that. I talk to my officers every day, and they know what lies ahead for us, and they're ready for that. A lot of the officers, especially our good officers out there, are asking for it. I mean, they're literally begging for us to do the things that we need to do to make this thing better. And we have to take advantage of that. I mean, all of us as police chiefs and executives within our agencies have to take advantage of this time in history right now to do what we need to do to make things better. And there are a ton of officers, a ton of police chiefs, a ton of community people out there ready and willing and able to do that. And we can't miss this opportunity.
Our goal today is to discuss best practices, to actually have a dialogue that will hopefully create some information that all of these chiefs and everyone here can take back to the local communities and actually continue the dialogue. I think everyone here knows that what I believe is we're in a bit of a crisis right now. And if we don't do something, if we don't get started with a dialogue, not pointing the fingers at each other, but actually having a dialogue on exactly what we can do to provide solutions, and not just one solution, because one solution is not going to cure anything, but provide solutions and continuing a dialogue, not only here, but throughout the country, then that crisis will continue.